Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and today we're going to go over the Balance Dataslate that GW has just dropped on us yesterday. This is potentially one of the biggest shakeups for 40k 9th edition that we have seen, way more than any of the chapter approves that have come out. So stay tuned, that we're going to cover all the pros and cons, especially some of the things you need to know as a Tyranid player. Not a ton, but some important rules that are coming into play. So if that all sounds good to you, do like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our content here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios. And if you do want to support the channel just a little bit more, help the growth here, check us out on Etsy or become a member. You get access to member exclusive videos and our private Discord channel along with many other perks. So now with all that out of the way, let's dive into this video. So in this video, we're going to cover the two main changes. I should say there's more than two, but there's two categories. We have 40k wide changes, game rule specific changes, balances, and we have army specific rule change and balances. Many armies have all seen one. They also though incorporated some of the old ones, so those are still there. And then at the end, I'll just go over my thoughts on things like that. So let's first go into the changes. The first army or game-wide change is the changes to indirect fire. Previously, us Tyranid players, in our 8th edition codex, Hive Guard were the big menace of this rule. Now, there are new baddies in town, and they have just outright hit the indirect fire with one of the biggest nerf hammers we've seen in a while. So what happens is that the rule change is now indirect fire. If it targets a unit it cannot see, the ballistic skill on the model is reduced by 1. And then the target also receives +1 to its saving throws. -1 to the ballistic skill will stack on top of any other negative modifiers to the hit rolls. Tyranid players, Venom Thropes are going to be that much better. If your opponent is bringing into indirect fire, Venom Thrope will make those hit at -2. So big changes there, really big changes. And there were the broadsides and all the missile pods from the Tau really were the biggest culprit. I know Eldar with their Night Spinners and weapon platforms and stuff were having some issues, but not nearly as bad. Other armies, Tyranid's indirect fire is severely nerfed, and now it's even more nerfed. Though with Synapse support, the Hive Guard can shoot out of line of sight and ignore the ballistic skill modifiers. However, they do not ignore the saving throw modifiers. Huge nerfs there. Some important notes, like I said, the Astra Militarum do ignore this rule outright. They just flat out ignore it, probably just to help hold them over till their next codex. Hive Guard again ignore the AP -1, but not the +1 to the opponent's save if they have Synapse support. And yes, they can stack. So that changes to indirect fire. The next one also affects us Tyranid players, but others, is the change to the Bodyguard rule. The old rule was that enemy models or units could not target character units with ranged attacks if they were shielded via the Bodyguard rule. So your Tyrant Guard could sit behind a building, be untargetable, and your Hive Tyrant could sit out in the open as long as he's within 3 inches of a guy. You just couldn't shoot either of them most likely. Now, the character unit just gains the Lookout Sir, even if it contains fewer than 3 models, which is a big hit, in a way, it still works exactly the same. You just have to play it more how it's supposed to be played. It gets around some of the shenanigans of messing with the Bodyguard rule, where, like I said, you hide the Bodyguard out of line of sight, keep the character in the open, and then they couldn't be touched. I get it. I totally get it. It's a weird workaround of the rule, and they've fixed it. Otherwise, it works as intended. Some other notes, what that means is now snipers can target the character even though they have the Bodyguard rule, because they can be targeted from ranged attacks. It's just typically the Lookout Sir rule ignores it, and Sniper ignores the Lookout Sir rule. Anyway, they cancel out. The other note they did mention is that Hive Tyrants still gain the rule even though they have more than 9 wounds. So that's huge, otherwise Tyrant Guard would have been absolutely worthless again. But Hive Tyrants can now be shielded by Tyrant Guard even though they have more than 9 wounds. So good, bad, for the better of the game, good change. The next huge rule, while those two were both one niche, I should say they're both niche rules that needed some fixing. This one was just came out of left field from GW. The Armor of Contempt is now a rule that buffs all Space Marines, Adeptus Astartes, Grey Knights, Sanctus Astartes, hate that word, Chaos Space Marines of all flavors, Heretic Astartes, and Sisters of Battle, Adeptus Sororitas. And this rule is they now reduce all incoming AP by 1. Straight up. So now all of your weapons, I'm a little salty as those Tyranid players, we're just getting our codex. Everything's got improved AP. Our Sighting Talons have got extra AP, our Death Spitters, Rending Claws. Now, all of that AP we just gained is basically for nothing on Space Marines and much of the Imperium. I get it. Obviously, GW was getting AP was way out of hand in terms of how much they're applying it to everything. Our Termagant Fleshbore is being AP -1. What the heck? It makes more sense now, I guess. Maybe they had this in mind. Maybe. But this feels more like a band-aid to their AP problem more than a planned deal. We'll see. Hopefully it brings Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, once they get their 2 wounds, and Sisters back up into the line of competitiveness. Some things that when it doesn't come into effect. So models with Storm Shield, Combat Shield, Relic Shields, those ones you do not get to reduce AP by 1 and then get a +1 your save on top of it. Models that have the Sanctic Shield are force shielding, so these are like Sacrosanct for the Sisters. Force shielding is on the Grey Knight Dread Knights, so they don't get the -1 reduce AP. They already have some form of shielding, basically saying, hey, it'd be way too OP. And models that are already under the effect of reducing AP, they do not get to stack. No double stacking, anything like that. The thing that bugs me is that all of the tanks and the dreadnoughts and the Mauler Fiends and all of those scary things, they get it. And it's not so much it bothers me, but it's just like Redemptor Dreadnoughts were already arguably the best unit, non-character unit in a Space Marine Codex. Now, they have reduced AP by 1 and reduced damage by 1 on top of their already very efficient and effective shooting and close combat profiles. So we're going to see a whole lot more of 3 Redemptor Dreads walking across the board, more than we already have, I would think. Don't know how it affects too many other things, but Redemptor Dreads, specifically Salamander ones, I'll touch on that in just a second, are going to be absolutely nasty. So that is it for the Army or game-wide special rule changes. We now have specific Army buffs and nerfs. So let's go over the buffs. The Adeptus Sororitas, they changed their rule a little bit, so they'll now gain a Miracle Die at the start of each turn. A minor thing, but it'll help out the Sisters players. Essentially, it just allows them to keep up with Eldari and all of their Fate dice, because Fate dice are just better Miracle dice in a way. So that's a little change there. Order of the Valorous Heart has seen a change. They used to be the Ignore AP -1. Now they've stripped that rule because they already have the Ignore AP -1. Wound rolls against these units cannot be re-rolled, which is a little niche, but important when it comes into play. Astra Militarum had some crazy rules. The first one is that infantry squad no longer have to pay for their war gear. They did go up to 60 points for 10, but you can buy all the war gear you want on a block of 10 and they're still 60 points. The other thing, which is probably arguably a bigger one, this is an additional regiment bonus. So if you have a battle-forged army, blah, 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 all of that stuff, 6 to the hit for units with the regiment keyword, auto wound. So that would be things like Bane Blades, not Bane Blades, sorry, Bane Blades, Lehman Russes, your infantry squads, your mortar teams, your Hellhounds, all your transports, all your very basic core guard stuff, all get this rule. So it makes your las gains a little more potent now that they can wound things on 6s where they have the volume of fire to do so. Death Guard, not only did they also get the Ignore AP -1, but their Death Shroud and Blight Lord Terminators now gain OBSEC, making those units that much more important for a Death Guard army. I think Death Shroud got a recent points buff. We have a friend who's learning a Death Guard right now, and he was mentioning that they got a recent points bump before we could even use them. And that's weird. I don't know why they needed them. Might be why, because they had this planned a few months out for this data slate. So they were anticipating them maybe getting a points bump, and that's why. So if that's the case, great, but that's good news for Death Guard, not only for this rule, but for their armor contempt. Salamanders, the other rule, the other army, similar to Valorous Heart, where they have a built-in Ignore AP -1. Now Salamanders can no longer have the wound roll re-rolled against them. Very powerful. I think Salamanders are going to be working their way up towards one of the more powerful armies now for Space Marines individually. So we'll see them coming out. I know one guy specifically, Tim, if you're watching this, I'm ready for your 3 Salamander Redemptors coming next week. Let's go easy on me, please. We'll see. We'll see. There are some nerfs, thankfully, to 3 important armies that definitely needed it. The first one was Adeptus Custodes, the Golden Boys. Now only their troop choices have OBSEC like everybody else. It was really annoying to see their bikes and their characters all having OBSEC. So, or actually, I don't know if their bikes did, but all their characters and Terminators all had OBSEC, which was annoying for some armies to deal with. So, got rid of that. The following stratagems for the Adeptus Custodes can only be used once per game now: Esteemed Amalgam, Emperor's Auspice, and Martial Discretion. Basically ones that could be overused, spammed. They were cheap relatively to what their effect was, but now that they're once per game, Custodes players, you have to be a lot more careful about when you use it, if it's the right time to use it. Also, 2 of their following stratagems can only be now used on infantry: Arcane Genetic Alchemy, which is their version of transhuman, meaning their bikes can no longer use transhuman, which is just going to make them that much more easy to kill. Not saying they're easy to kill, but they'll be more easy to kill. They're still going to be crazy heavy hitters. So good changes to Custodes. We'll see what they'll think. Out of all the changes, the change to their OBSEC on their only being on troops now is going to be a big blow to them, but maybe it's needed. We'll see. Harlequins have had some significant point increases. Star Weavers, which are their troop transports, went up 15 points apiece. Void Weavers, their heavy support, the thing everyone was bringing 9 of, went up 40 points a model. I was looking at some places, and the meta list, just from some rough napkin math essentially, top meta lists are going to see upwards of 400 point increases to their army. So yeah, you know those 9 Void Weaver guys who played you, they're essentially playing a 2,400 point army against your 2,000 point army. Now, it'll be hopefully more toned down. It'll be interesting to see what people do if they just stop bringing these all together. 40 points is a lot. I know they were spamming them, but man, 40 points on each of them. Maybe I'm lucky I never had to play against that. So that there. They also had a few other minor changes in there. One of them was their mirror architect. It was toned down. It was an upgrade for one of their characters. It now only affects one core unit within 6 inches instead of being a 6-inch aura. And what that was, for non-Harlequin players who don't know, it was every unit, it used to be every unit within 6 inches was treated as being 6 inches further away from their opponent in terms of range attacks. So everyone within 6 inches, you had to add 6 to your range if you're targeting that unit. Now, in the command phase, they have to select a core unit, and that unit takes that benefit. Much more toned down, and happy to see that change. Even though I didn't play against it, that just sounds disgusting to play against. Finally, we have the Tau. Tau Empire have seen a number of changes, some major, some minor, but all, I think, for the better of the game. Montka, one of their army special rules, now only grants reroll wound rules of 1. It no longer just increases the AP and gives you the rerolls. I guess adding all that AP is a lot, but if you look at it in terms of armor contempt, they are in some ways losing 2 AP on some of their shooting. So, wicked, wicked, wicked. Broadsides, as most people expected, are losing the core keyword. It's pretty common when you have a unit of 3, if they're heavy support, fast attack, elite, a unit of 3 heavy hitting models that stay as a unit is typically too good for the core keyword. Which, yeah, I mean, the biggest culprit with the Iron Strider Ballistarii Eye, technically that's how you say it, Iron Strider Ballistarii Eye, they had core keyword, you could bring 6 of them in a unit. No longer. Well, you still bring 6 in a unit, but no longer they have core keyword. So, yeah, good there. Farsight Enclaves, their devastating counter-strike rule, got changed just a little bit. It now only gives their marker light bonus to units within 9 inches, not 12 inches. So, it tones down the effective range of that a little bit. Finally, a very niche but important one they touched up here. The repulsor field and the photon grenade stratagems, they have been nerfed, well, clarified / nerfed a little bit. Charge roll modifiers are not cumulative from those stratagems to any other effect that would reduce charge range. And I'm not sure what would do that, except for, say, difficult terrain or dense terrain, whatever the technical term is for the one that subtracts 2 to your charge rolls. I could see you basically negating most charges if you had those stratagems active to reduce the charge and stack another -2 on top of it. So good changes there, all in all, for the Tau. So that's pretty much it. A lot of the things otherwise all stayed the same. The Orcs, the Necrons, Chaos Space Marines, Adeptus Mechanicus, all of their changes have stayed the same. Drukhari, no need to go back and look at all your any new rules there. They just kept them in there. Few things, two, three things that I think were interesting that were left out. One of them was that the Imperial Knights and the Chaos Knights lost their rule where their knights count as multiple models for objective purposes. And they said the reason they did this is because the Imperial Knight and Chaos Knight codexes are right around the corner. I'm assuming that means sometime we're coming up to May, so by the end of April, early May, we're going to see those codexes drop. But for this 2 or 3 week period, unless your TO or your friend or lets you do otherwise, Imperial Knights just got a huge downgrade for a couple weeks until they get their codex. So unfortunate that that's the way it had to go, but it's better they just put it in here and then having to mess with it, because obviously the rule is not going to be identical to what it is in the codex. Otherwise they would have maybe kept it in. So that's a change there. The other one is I'm a little shocked they did not touch on any Tyranid stuff specifically. Obviously the codex isn't even out at the time of filming this. Codex comes out on Saturday. But at least a clarification to say Crusher on the knowledge of what happens with Crusher Stampede And what happens with the Leviathan supplement? Are they fine? If that's the case, maybe a Crusher Stampede Leviathan supplement plus all of our new rules in the Codex are going to be the better way to play Tyranids, which is unfortunate because I don't want it to be that. You can say what you want, because if you do that, you lose your built-in transhuman, but you trade out your transhuman for an invuln save. What would you rather have? I think math-wise, especially on monsters, the invuln save comes up a lot more than the transhuman would. So, yeah, I mean, if you're playing Tyranids, a Leviathan, Crusher, Stampede, Tyranid list might be the big nasty way to play Tyranids until we get clarification from GW. And who knows, maybe they'll release something the day the Codex comes out to clarify all of it. But we won't know until they do. And I have a tournament in a week, so I'm just a little confused at what list to bring. If I bring my Kraken competitive list I have been brewing up, or I throw that to the side and play a Crusher, Stampede, Leviathan monster mash just for the lulz. We'll see. But that's all we got for the Balance Dataslate. We'll keep it nice and short. What do you guys think about all of these rules? Most of them make sense. Do you think Indirect Fire was toned a bit too much? Do you think the Armor of Contempt is wild and too much? But what would you do with GW's downward spiral of AP on everything? I don't know. I think we'll see. Brings Space Marines back to the middle or top. Chaos Space Marines will still suffer until they get their extra wound, but that's all for another conversation. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, members, for supporting us. And we'll catch you next time here at Maelstrom Gaming Studio. Have a great weekend, everyone.